Hey, good morning, Patricia from Patricia Makes Stuff, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do another ribbing video. So today I'm going to demonstrate a 2-2 rib on my True Knit knitting machine. We're also going to do this selvage that is what I'm calling a 3-2 or a 3-1, I can't remember, but it's basically a very tiny hung hem. Makes a very nice selvage on the top of the sock. I like it, very nice. It's a little bit roughly, but these haven't been washed, and this is my prototype, so I'm gonna knit the sock that we're gonna do together. I'm gonna use a little looser gauge for some reason. I'm using active yarn, which is what I normally use on my sock machine. I like it very much, but this particular colorway is knitting up a little stiffer. I don't know if it's the dyes that they used, but we're gonna do 2-2 rib on the top of the entire top of the sock. And I'm gonna make it a little bit longer than this sock because I wanna wear it with my boots. I'm doing a 2-2 rib so that I can fold the top of the sock over the top edge of my boots. They kind of go up my leg a bit. We're also going to add in this 1-1 rib at the arch of the foot. And on my prototype here, as you can see, I got it a little close to the heels. So we're going to add a few rows here after I do the heel. And on this sock, I also did a pre-heel, which I don't think I'm going to do. Not sure about that one. All right, but we're going to definitely move this 1-1 rib out a bit so that it is more toward the arch of my foot rather than right at the beginning. It's got to be toward my instep a little bit more. Okay. I'm not probably calling all those foot anatomy things correctly. I hope you're doing good today. I'm going to switch cameras. I'm going to get my cast-on bonnet applied and switch cameras. When we do this folded hung hem as a selvage edge, we are going to have all the needles in our machine in order to accomplish this selvage. This is from the book CSM Selvages. It's I ordered it. It's Kathy Roletter. I think if you just search that title and her name, it'll come up with her website. I think I bought it through a fabric store that she may own, or a yarn shop, can't remember. But it's a good book. It's a great book. Her selvage folded hung hem selvage is a little different than mine. I did not have great success doing only 2 rows of knitting and then trying to hang the hem. It was too tight, even using no heel spring and a looser tension, but I also may not have read it 100% correctly. Like, I did it a few times, but I was not successful. So I modified it so that it worked, and that's what we got to do. But great book, excellent ideas. Going to try a few more of them as we go along here, but still kind of liking this one. Going to keep doing it for a while until it becomes very natural. So onto the machine, I'm going to apply the cast-on bonnet, get cast on, and then we're going to start with some waste yarn, and then we're going to start our sock. So knit along with me. Let's do this together. Again, I'm using a True Knit. Not sure if you can do a 2-2 rib on your dial. Just depends on what kind of machine you're working on. I think some of the antique machines maybe not, but either way, going to demonstrate that today. So back in a minute. Alrighty, I'm back. So I have cast on with my cast on bonnet. I've put some waste yarn on the machine, and now I'm going to install my project yarn. And I have loosened up my stitch size a little bit, and we'll see if this doesn't turn out better than my prototype, which really didn't turn out that well. All right, so I have stopped my yarn carrier at D. If we letter our machine, this is A back here where there's a mark there, and B is over here. C is the front of my machine, and D over here is where I'm adding in the project yarn. And we are going to knit 2 full rows, and I am not using the heel spring on this. So there's 1 row and there's 2 rows, and we're going to start a 3rd row. Starting a 3rd row, and when I get part of the way around, I'm going to stop. I'm going to release the weight, take the weight off the machine, set it up there, and I'm going to start hanging that first row that I knit. I'm going to do a hung hem. So I'm going to start hanging the loop. So really what we're hanging now, when you do a hung hem, you're hanging the loop in between the actual stitches. And we're just going to start hanging this hem. And like I said, I did 3 rows. Well, right here is 3. Right here we're still at 2 because I haven't completed this row yet. And that's okay, because as I get closer, we will crank around so that I can access these other needles. Then after I do this 3rd row and I hang it, I'm going to do 1 row around to knit to knit it in place, to kind of close that off. So here we go. We are hanging that row. I am pulling down a little bit on my cast on bonnet because I find that it helps me keep the stitches neat and helps me pick up the correct loop. Okay, so I'm just going to crank around a little bit more here so I can access some more needles and continue. Okay, I'm going to continue on around. I'm going to stop the camera for a minute, and you can catch up if you're knitting along, and I'll be back. Okay, so I am almost all the way around the cylinder with hanging the hem. I have started cranking my yarn carrier around so that these stitches have been completed and I can access the needles. They're up and available. And I wanted to point out that when you get to the end of hanging this hem, it's just like when we do a hung hem on a sock, you know, that's wider, but you're going to end up with one less stitch. If you were just to leave this stitch and continue knitting and not do anything with it, then it would end up being a hole. You would drop that stitch. So what the author of the CSM Selvages book recommends is that you use your yarn tail that's in the middle of the cast-on bonnet here, that you use your yarn tail to go around that last needle. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this tail of the yarn, I'm going to wrap it around that needle. Then what I'm going to do, and she doesn't mention this in the book, but to lock that in, because I could see that not maybe, I think it would hold, but then you still have to weave your tail in, right? So I'm gonna feed that tail back into my yarn carrier as I go by, so that we can work that in. Sorry about the phone if you can hear that. It's going off. Okay, so here I am. I'm back. I should put my weights back on before I go any farther. Whew. That would be bad, wouldn't it? Well, it'd be fine. Here we go. Get my weights back on here. Okay, so I'm back here at the last needle. I'm going to knit that needle. Now, I really should have fed that in sooner. I think I could still get it in there. Okay, and we're just going to get that in the needles right there. And maybe even that one. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, we're going to feed that back in. So now that's worked in, all set. All right, now we're going to knit to between the B and the C position, and we're going to start to apply our ribber needles. Now, again, I mentioned that we're doing a 2-2 rib, so I'm going to start 2 needles past my mark here at D, and we're going to start putting in that ribber. Whoa! I forgot I had some needles in there from before when I took it out of the machine. So we had a little shower of ribber needles falling out. There we go. I got them. Okay, we're going to apply that ribber to your machine. And remember some things to check always. No space here at where this ribber sits into the machine. You're going to want to be sure that your ribber dial is hitting the fin underneath. There's a pin here. You want it to hit that. And you want to make sure that you are up against the drive pin here, that this screw is hitting the drive pin. Now we need to check and see if we're lined up. And we are. So I'm going to be starting with this needle, and we're doing 2-2 ribs. So we're going to replace those 2 needles with ribber needles. And to do that, I will show you when I get past, when this gets out of our way of the camera, I'll demonstrate how I'm picking up that stitch so that you can see, rather than try and verbally explain it here. So we're just going to pick up a few, and then I will explain what I find to be the easiest way to transfer when you already have an established stitch. And we're going to do it twice on this sock because we are going to add the river back in after we knit the heel. We're going to add it back in, just like if you've done the shorty socks for we guess we call them athletic socks for short socks, summer socks. Same thing. But I'm going to add it into my boot sock. Just for fun. Just because I can. That is the truth. We can. Okay, so transferring the needle to the ribber. If you fed that yarn tail back into your, to tuck the end in, you're going to have a few needles here that are going to have 2 loops on them. And that's why, because if you did what I did, you tuck that yarn tail. These have two loops on them. All right, so it's easier to see this now. I am pushing the top of the needle back so that the butt of the needle down here wiggles that spring. Then I flip it sideways and pull it up under the spring. Now, you can do it lots of ways, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing here. To me, it seems to be the fastest. Now, without removing, I have the loop. I just transfer it from the cylinder to the ribber. Okay, making sure that your latch stays open. Whoops. Grab that loop with the hook of the ribber and then install it in the ribber dowel. And we're going to skip 2 and pick up the next 2. So push that tail out, put them sideways, and pull them up under the spring. And then slide the cylinder needle down, pulling it. I pull it out from the machine so I can get a nice clean grab on that loop. We don't want to split the yarn, just like any other time we're messing with the stitches. Okay, pull it out, grab the loop, pull the cylinder needle out, and install the rubber needle. And I'm going to work my way around the cylinder. Now, this is going to start to engage when this yarn carrier gets past my first 2 stitches. It's going to start to engage. So we got 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Pop it out, fold them over, get under the spring, pull your cylinder needle out just a wee bit, grab that stitch and lay it down in the ribber dowel. And we're going to continue around. When I get all the way around, I shall return. Okay, so I want to point something out here. I'm working my first row of 2-2 ribbing. Somebody made a comment on the Facebook group, which is Michigan Machine Knit Connection, if you'd like to join us there. But somebody made a comment when I talked about 2-2 ribbing that they had trouble with dropping stitches. And I think perhaps the reason why is I had the heel spring disengaged on the machine, and if you can see right here where there was no heel spring engaged, for some reason the second loop, the second needle of my 2-2, and this would be the cylinder needles, it really loose, and it dropped, actually dropped 2 stitches. So I went ahead and engaged the heel spring, and in hindsight I think the key here might be engaging the heel spring when you are knitting that hung hem together. And because I think I'm going to have to watch very carefully that these stitches actually knit. But here where the heel spring is engaged, I'm not having that big loop problem. So I just wanted to point that out, and I will be back in a minute. Okay, I've done 85 rows of 2-2 ribbing, and I am now going to start taking my ribber needles off and slipping the stitches back onto a cylinder needle. So basically just again, when I get around the machine a little bit, I will demonstrate this more clearly, but just gonna install the cylinder needle and slide that ribber stitch onto the cylinder and work my way around. I think you can start to see it now. Slide your ribber needle out. I have the cylinder needle in the slot here, ready to be put into place. Slide your stitch down on the ribber needle and then over the cylinder, making sure that your latches on your cylinder needles stay open, which I will check and double check because I don't want to drop any stitches at this point. I do find, and I'm going to investigate it when I take the ribber off, I'll be surprised if there are no drop stitches over on the opposite side over here where that fin is sticking up. Sometimes I feel like maybe it's the cast-on bonnet, maybe it's the selvage edge, something gets in the way of that fin, and I think that keeps some of the tension off the stitch, and so it doesn't really want to knit off. It is the cylinder needles or cylinder stitches that I had trouble with on the top of the sock. And so one of the remedies I want to suggest to that, if you're finding that your ribber stitches are knitting fine, but your cylinder stitches are a bit loopy, it helps if you take the time to make sure that your two sizes of stitches are the same. So if they're not coming off the cylinder and they're coming off the ribber, probably it's unbalanced a little bit. So you want your stitch sizes to be similar. That's one thing to check for. The other thing I often do when I'm ribbing is I put more pressure on the bottom side of the machine to make sure that the stitches are coming off the needles. I take my hand. Now I can feel we have some drop stitches, which that's okay because I will show you how to fix that. So let me get the cylinder needles off and then we'll have the big reveal here. Okay, I'm all the way around the cylinder. I know I have at least one drop stitch, one right there. Let's see if there are any more. I'll pop it off. Nope, just that one. Oh, and it's right there. So that's a really easy fix. Now, I'm going to take the weight off here just so that needle doesn't, or that stitch doesn't run any farther. Here's the stitch right here. See it? There it is. All right. What I like to do is grab a stitch holder or a bobby pin. And I'm going to put my hand behind here so that I have something to press against. And I'm going to grab a loop that I can easily grab. It doesn't have to be the exact loop that is where it ran down to. But here I've got this loop on this stitch holder, bobby pin, whatever you use. Now I'm gonna pick up that stitch and rehang it on my cylinder. But if I drop it again, it's only gonna run down to that bobby pin. It's not gonna go farther. I gotta grab my hook. All right, so because this is a cylinder stitch, I'm going to go behind the stitches, get it on the needle or on the latch tool. Now, where's my thingy? Here it is. Okay. You want your latch to go past if you're not familiar with this, this is a great, it's a nice tool. Yeah, keep your latch open. Go past your stitch, feed it under the next bar. It looks like it's not really a loop, right? Because, all right, and whoops, now see, it came off my needle or off my latch tool. So that's okay because I've got that holder in there. It's not going to go anywhere. Pass the stitch, pull up a loop, go past that loop, grab the next, and latch it up. If you're at the point of doing ribbing, you have done this thousands of times. Okay, here we go. One more to go. Pass the latch, pull up the loop over the needle. We're golden. Now that that is secured on my needle, I can remove. Gravity's working at the studio today. All right, we're all set. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Woohoo! Okay, I'll stop playing. It looked like a sea anemone. All right, here we go. Now, you have a choice here. On my prototype, ooh, I'm seeing another drop stitch. Where is that? What is happening? I have a hole here. I think it made a stitch. Did it drop? Is it there? Yep, I got another one. Oh, but see, it picked up again. That's why it's confusing. Right here, do you see this hole? Right here? And there's my stitch right there. So what I'm going to do, yep, I'm going to go down and grab that stitch right there. Right there. And now that I have the stitch on my needle, or on my hook, I grab another bobby pin because gravity grabbed the other one. I'm going to secure that on a stitch holder or a bobby pin. Maybe. Maybe I am. Right there. Sorry, I know this is hard for you to see right now. It'll all make sense in a moment. Okay, so I've secured that stitch. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to First of all, I'm going to make sure that I have this. There we go. I want you to see that. Do you see the stitch that I grabbed right there? There you go. You can see it right down there. Now, the stitch that had actually dropped went part way, it dropped, it unraveled to here, but then right here it started picking up and knitting again. Okay, so I'm going to follow that stitch up to this, it's this needle right here. I'm going to let that stitch, I'm going to take that stitch off so that I only have to pick it up. So I don't have to stop in the middle of picking that stitch up to get at it. Okay. There we go. We're going to let that run down to that hole. Now we can start to repair that. And again, this was a cylinder needle. And if I look at my stitch sizes, this is why this is happening. The rubber dial had one stitch size on it, and the cylinder had a larger. See the space right here? This will become apparent when I take this off the machine. Oop. Past the latch. Trying not to split the yarn. Come back. Come back. There it went. All right, we're getting there. That was a lot of stitches. But I'm not surprised, considering they appear to be pretty unbalanced. But you know what? That's the beauty of something that you make. It is unique. Unique, unique. Okay, past the latch. Grab the loop. There we go. Past the latch. I can use my finger now. It's much faster. Past the latch. Grab the loop. One more to go if we don't drop it. There we go. And over the hook. Yay! We did it. We have to decide whether to do a pre-heel. And I think I am going to demonstrate it. It's just what it says it is. I did... This is my tutu ribbing that we just finished right here. Tutu ribbing. Rather than start my heel immediately, I'm gonna do 4 rows. This only has 2. I'm gonna do 4. Okay, so I'm gonna start my row counter over. And we're gonna, I already have 1 row. This is the beginning of the pre-heel because we've worked our way around the cylinder as we took the rubber off. So we actually have 1 row. We'll count that as 1. All right, and we're gonna do 4 rows. Uh-oh, why is that not working? What is happening? Oh, look at that. My latch is missing. Whoa. Okay, so what does that mean? We gotta change the needle out. Put this needle in. I did not see that happen. Maybe you did. Okay. That is a bummer. Okay. And knit that stitch. Okay, hopefully that is the only one that's like that. This is the beginning of the third row. And 4 rows, that's my pre-heel. We're going to stop at this mark. Because we're going to start our heel. Okay, so we're going to raise. Here's my mark at letter D. And here is A, and this is C. We're going to raise the needles. I do my heel on the front part of the cylinder. It doesn't matter which side you do it on. It's your preference. But I do both my heel and my toe on the front. And we're going to start the heel now. There is the beginning of it. And we're going to install the heel forks. There we go. Very good. It's not really in the best spot. There we go. That's better. Okay. Gonna raise a needle and just do a regular old heel. There we go, and we're off. Okay, I go down to 12 stitches because I make quite wide. We all have wide feet in my family, so, and these are for me. And I have very little wide paddles for feet. Okay. I like to do a Creelman heel or a 1-up. So here's my mark for my 12 stitches right here. This is C right here in the middle. I'm doing 6 stitches on either side of C. I'm going to raise the needle on my yarn carrier side, and on the opposite side I'm going to put 2 needles down. This is the Creelman heel, or some people just call it the 1-up, 2-down heel. The reason I like it is because it makes a very nice edge on the, there are not very many holes, or the holes are smaller on the increase and the decreases. One up. Sometimes that last stitch gets a little bit loose and I tighten it. 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. 1 up, 2 down. Yep, see, that got a little bit big. If that happens, I just pull the yarn out with my hook, give it a little tug. All right, complete the stitch, raise the needle, 2 down on the other side, 1 up, 2 down, 1 up, 2 down. Continue all the way around. To my marks, and actually I go past my marks because two down, 1 up, 2 down. Okay, so I am at my marks. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to put my needles down, make sure my latches are open. Now, we are at the pre-instep part of our sock. We just finished the heel. We just finished this part of the heel. We did a pre-heel. Whoops, wrong side. We did pre-heel here. We did 4 rows instead of 2. This sock only has 2. Did 4 rows there. We just did this part here. We are on this sock. I only did 2 rows. 1, 2, and then I started the ribbing for the instep. But I'm going to move that down quite a bit. I'm going to do 10 rows. That's going to take me out to about right here. Is that true? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do 8 rows. We'll do 8 rows past the heel, just plain knitting before we install the ribber again. So we're gonna do 7 rows, and on the 8th row pass, we're gonna stop right here, just like if we were doing the top of the sock. Okay, so I'm gonna restart my. Ooh, I was at 50. Better write that down. Is that true? Do I need to write? No, I don't need to write that down. It's okay. All right, so we're going to do 10 rows. No, we're going to do 8 rows, sorry. Making sure that all my latches are open. Check, 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 check. It's so much easier to just check and double check than to pick up stitches at this point, especially if they drop right here or right here. Yeah, that's just so annoying. But it didn't happen. So that was one row, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7. This is my 8th row right there, and I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to install the ribber. And before I forget, I'm going to write down pre-heel is 4 rows. 4 rows. And post, we'll call it post heel, is 8 rows. Install 7 rows plus 1. We're going to install the ribber. Now, just so we don't have the same problem we did before, I'm going to adjust the tension on my ribber dial because I can. Right here, we're gonna maybe I can. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna go. What do I need to do here? I'll make it a little bigger. Right there. Okay, try that. Now, what do we need to check? No space here, no space here. Where's that pin? It's right there. Okay, pin against the fin. and the screw here, this screw against the drive pin. Okay. In position, adjusted the tension. Hopefully it'll match the machine a little bit better. Now, we're going to start with, we're going to do 1/1 rib at the instep of my foot. Okay, so we're just going to start putting in, rubber needles. Starting with that needle right there. Pop that out. I realize you can't see it yet, but when we get around, we will. This is the same thing we did when we installed them after the selvage. You know, I used to do a lot of weaving on a big floor loom, and I used to get frustrated because weaving wasn't near as much, or warping the loom, getting ready to weave, wasn't near as much fun as just the weaving process. And adding the ribber in and out, taking the ribber in and out, it kind of reminds me of that. It's like you gotta just make up your mind that this is part of the fun process. If you get annoyed at having to switch out your ribber, you won't do it. You'll just end up doing simple socks. There's nothing wrong with simple socks. I still make them, you know, with a hung hem and no ribbing. It's okay. I like them. But it's fun to do other stuff. So don't shy away from it just because it takes a little longer. You still can learn to enjoy the process. That's what I'm telling you. It's part of the process. On the true knit, the ribber has a long slot and a short slot. I am using the short slot. You will choose whichever slot lines up the best with the needle that you're transferring. And I am transferring every other needle. So there we go. And we'll crank around a bit. Push the top of the needle back. Let that needle butt come out of the slot. Go under the spring. Slide it down. Pull it out. Grab the stitch with your ribber needle and then slide the cylinder needle out. Just like we did before. Okay, I'll be back when I get all the way around. Okay, I'm all the way around the cylinder with installing the ribber needles. And I'm halfway around with my first row here. So it's actually row number 10. I'm going to do 25 rows of 1/1 ribbing for my instep of my foot. So that means we're going to go until the row counter tells me 35. Because I already did 10, remember, my post heel. So 35, when that says 35, we're going to replace the ribber needles again with cylinder needles. Okay, we're at 35. So once again, starting at my mark, take out the rubber needle, put the cylinder needle back in to finish out the foot of the sock. And then we'll do the toe. I'll be back when I'm ready to take the ribber off. So I'm all the way around the cylinder with installing the needles, and I wanted to remind you, be sure as you're going around that those latches on your newly installed cylinder needles are open. So now we can remove the rubber dial, reveal whether we, no drop stitches, great. All right, now I've done 36 rows. I want to do about 56 rows for this foot. So I'm going to finish out until my row counter is at 55, 56 rows. There we go. Okay, now we're going to raise the needles and do the toe. When I have the toe done, I'll come back. Okay, I finished the toe of the sock. I am at the spot where I'm going to put in my waist yarn. Left some yarn to stitch up graft my toe. Not my toe, my sock's toe. The sock's toe. And adding in the waist yarn